Start your story with someone robbing a bank and end it with two people driving on an interstate. 2's Robbery. By Dumisan Khumalo. All for the money, and money on the roller of the double-barrel shotgun came out of his overcoat. The security was not looking at the door, sanitizers and masks confounding him as the guy on his CCTV could not make out who is who. The door security looking at the overcoat entrant who came in wearing a hoodie, mask, was as everyone maintaining the new normal. Everyone maintained social distance and looked like the Taliban with their hijab. No one could make out a difference. Cash bag in hand, he ordered all to lay down and put cash into the satch with the tellers, and anyone making sudden movements would get it, and one bullet hit the roof to scare them. Outside, a waiting car with its driver wearing a tinted shield was waiting as the robber jumped in, and they made off along the main street. Police cars, soon alerted, came out like streams into a bigger river and springing out from every corner, heading into the direction of the escape vehicle. Like dogs on a scent, they made good distance into the suburbs and entered a derelict house where there was no one living there. The windows had been buttressed shut, and as soon as they entered, Plan B was put into action. Police cars moved in, and the first, second, third ended up being a number of police cars, journalists and curious onlookers who stood outside. The chief of police was soon on scene, and with a loudspeaker asked the culprits to come out. The SWAT team was also soon to arrive and, checking on soft spots, and there were drawings of the building, and who the owner was. It belonged to a dead man who had died 5 years ago, and it was run down. No takers were there to buy it. Estate agents found it a curious hub for drug addicts, and some youth were using it as a hole to use drugs, have sex, and hide in from the harsh world. Coronavirus now made it inhabitable, a victim having succumbed of late, it was believed. There was a tunnel under it, and the police chief realized it late, as the SWAT quickly went in and opened the place up. In the bathroom there was an opening underneath with a passage into the sewers. The criminals had made good their escape, and the CIA were looking for prints, telltale signs, DNA, or anything that could raise the suspect's identity and description. Who had seen them, and footage at the bank came out blank, and nothing opened the identity of the culprits. Ballistic tests showed the gun was a recent acquisition in the town at a hardware store, so the culprits were obviously local, and there was also evidence the car was a hire by an old tourist couple who had reported the car missing 48 hours ago. Each office maintained the distance against the spread of corona, and the distance seemed to escape them. Their previous zeal to talk to each other was like the Taliban had initiated everyone. The scare of death to COVID-19 was real, and better still, cunning, as the infection rate kept rising and claiming its victims. The robbers took to the tunnels, and in the middle they might have headed in 4 directions, it seemed. The police wanted every outlet checked, and the lead into many other houses was not helping at all, especially the scent was lost on the sewerage water. The robbers' escape was simple, as they got to the house, dumped the car leaving it clean. Their lost jobs had invasive pain on them. When Roy was laid off, Mary to wait to be called back to work while bills were piling up on accounts, rent, and medical bills trumped on, as was ominous the health hazard. Mary was pregnant. The state television was reporting on it, and the amount involved was $5 million taken from the bank, and no one was injured. When they got to the house there was no time to waste, and they went into the tunnels and out into the park a kilometer away, and came out among the bushes where their love had started 2 years back. Fairly early the police cars were still heading their way to the hideouts and holes in the park, as the SWAT cleared all areas when they had come out and made good their escape in broad daylight. Those sirens had passed as they watched, and by the time they were reading their maps, the two were already out of their hole. Helicopter and the hullabaloo, masks and curious faces, no one could really see what was going on nor who was behind them, made matters worse. The dog section lost it, the cars stood outside, and when the discovery of the tunnel came, more confusion reigned. The chief started on histories, who was there before and when, what the neighbors had seen to no avail. They were COVID-19 tight citizens speaking through masks. Nothing was left out in the car, and about the car outside, no one saw anyone visit the house. The bathroom was dirty and bathtub moved to the side, and a mask belonging to a vagabond who had died there from God knows what still at the door handle to scare them off. Everyone had avoided him when he got sick, and she knew him when she was in hospital, and he died, and that's how they started to piece their puzzle together. He coughed a lot, but he did not have corona, and the nurses were generous as he told them about the house with many ways into the city, and it dawned on Mary when he mentioned the way into the park and out into many houses. They made a schematic with her lover, and their master plan was hatched out. They took their time and saw the car hire take place near their flat. In the evening, Mary and her lover boy were driving a Buick along the interstate. They were not talking but humming in amazement of what they had just done, and executed in the most fascinating of ways. Their eyes were glowing with love. Finally something had to give from the troubles they had to endure out of jobs, and the fact that the situation they were in was harassing. They loved each other so much and they wanted to stay together, as they drove now believing the wide road ahead of them was a new beginning.